Ever wondered why some people seem to effortlessly build wealth, while others barely get by? Look around. Most people spend their entire lives working hard, yet never achieve financial freedom. Why? Because wealth isn't about working harder, it's about working smarter. The habits you follow every single day determine whether you stay stuck or break free. Did you know that over 70% of lottery winners go broke within a few years? That's because money doesn't make you wealthy, habits do. Without the right habits, even millions of dollars will disappear. But with the right habits, wealth becomes inevitable. And now, I'll reveal those habits and show you how to apply them to your own life. If you're ready to take control of your financial future, this is where it begins. Number one, be proactive. Take control of your financial destiny. Imagine waking up every morning knowing that you are in control of your financial future. Imagine not worrying about bills, not feeling trapped by debt, and not being at the mercy of circumstances. That's the power of being proactive. Most people react to their finances. They wait until the bills pile up. They wait for a raise. They wait for some miracle to change their situation. But highly effective people don't wait. They take control. They decide that their financial future is too important to leave in the hands of luck or circumstances. It all starts with a mindset shift. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Start asking, what can I do about it? That simple change puts you in the driver's seat. And once you take responsibility for your financial future, you can start building the habits that lead to wealth. The first habit, a plan. A plan is what separates those who struggle from those who succeed. Without a plan, money slips through your fingers. Without a plan, you spend years working hard with little to show for it. But with a plan, you can direct every dollar you earn toward a purpose. I once met a man who made a good income, far more than enough to live comfortably, yet every month he was broke before his next paycheck. When I asked him where his money was going, he shrugged. No budget, no strategy, just spending as it came. Now, compare that to another man I knew who made half as much, but had a financial plan. He set aside a portion for savings, a portion for investing, and a portion for growth. Over the years, he built wealth while the other man stayed stuck in the cycle of financial struggle. The difference wasn't income. It was habit. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. If you want to be financially successful, you need the discipline of budgeting. Sit down and tell your money where to go before it decides for you. Allocate your income wisely, some for expenses, some for investments, some for personal growth. Then there's debt. One of the greatest traps people fall into is letting debt control them instead of the other way around. I knew a young man who once told me he was drowning in credit card debt. He said, "I can't seem to get ahead." I asked him, "Do you have a plan to get out of debt?" He said, "No. I'm just hoping to make more money." That's not a plan. That's wishful thinking. Highly effective people don't rely on hope. They take action. They create a strategy, whether it's paying off the smallest debts first to build momentum or tackling the highest interest ones to minimize costs. The key is to be intentional. And what about investing? Wealthy people don't just earn money. They make their money work for them. If all you do is work for money, you'll always be working. But if you learn to invest, your money starts working for you. I once knew a man who worked for decades but never saved or invested. He thought he'd always have his paycheck. But when retirement came, he had nothing to show for all those years of effort. Compare that to the person who starts investing even small amounts consistently. Over time, that money grows, and eventually, it provides financial security and freedom. It all comes back to being proactive. If you wait until the perfect moment to start, you'll never start. If you wait until you have more money to budget, you'll never have more. If you wait until you feel ready to invest, you'll miss years of opportunity. The time to take control is now. What does financial freedom look like to you? Have you ever taken the time to truly define it? Not just in vague terms like having more money or being comfortable, but in real specific details. Because until you can see it clearly in your mind, you won't have a path to get there. Highly effective people understand this. Before they take action, they start with the end in mind. They create a vision of the life they want, and then they work backward to make it a reality. I once asked a man about his financial goals. He said, "I just want to be rich." I asked him, "What does that mean? How much money do you need? What kind of lifestyle do you want?" He had no answer. He had a vague desire, but no destination. And that's the problem. Without a clear target, you'll spend your life wandering. Wealth isn't something you stumble into. It's something you build with intention. Think about building a house. Would you start hammering nails and stacking bricks without a blueprint? Of course not. You'd have a clear design, precise measurements, and a solid plan before laying the first brick. Wealth works the same way. You need a vision of what you're building before you start. Do you want to retire early? Own a business? Travel the world without financial worry? Pay off your home in 10 years instead of 30? Whatever it is, you have to see it first. One of the most powerful exercises you can do is write down exactly what financial freedom looks like to you. Picture it. What does your daily life look like? Where do you live? How much money do you need to sustain that lifestyle? What investments do you have? The clearer you get, the stronger your commitment becomes. I once knew a man who had a vision of retiring by 50. He didn't just say it. He wrote it down. He calculated the exact amount he needed, figured out how much to invest each year, and then followed the plan. While others spent without thinking, he made intentional choices. He still enjoyed life, but he prioritized his vision. And because he began with the end in mind, he reached financial freedom while others were still trying to figure it out. Most people never take this step. They work, they earn, they spend, but they don't have a bigger picture guiding their choices. And that's why so many never build wealth. They don't have a plan. They hope things will work out instead of designing a future they want. But hope is not a strategy. Clarity is. Once you have a vision, you need to set clear financial goals. Not just I want to save money or I want to be successful, but specific, measurable targets. Instead of I want to save more, decide I will save $500 a month. Instead of I want to invest, decide I will put 15% of my income into investments every year. The more specific you get, the more likely you are to follow through. I remember a young woman who once told me she wanted to be financially independent. I asked her, "What's your plan?" She hesitated. "Well, I guess I'll try to save and invest." I told her, "That's too vague. How much? By when? What steps will you take?" A year later, she came back and said, "I made a plan. I set a goal to save $10,000 this year, and I did it." That's the power of defining your target. When you begin with the end in mind, your daily decisions become clearer. Do you buy that expensive car now or invest the money to grow your future? Do you spend your evenings on entertainment or use that time to build new skills? Every choice either moves you toward or away from your financial freedom. But you only recognize this when you have a vision strong enough to guide you. Most people overestimate what they can do in a year, but underestimate what they can do in 5 or 10. If you set a clear financial vision today and commit to it, your life 5 years from now will look completely different. The question is, are you willing to define what you want and take the steps to make it happen? Most people live by the rule of, I want it now. They see something they like, a new car, the latest gadget, an expensive vacation, and they convince themselves they deserve it. And maybe they do, but the real question is, can they afford it not just today, but in the long run? That's where most people get it wrong. They trade their future security for momentary pleasure. Highly effective people, the ones who build lasting wealth, live by a different rule. They put first things first. They prioritize their financial well-being over impulse spending. I once met a man who made a great income, but he was always broke. He had the nice car, the designer clothes, the best vacations, but he never had financial peace. Every dollar he earned was spent before the next paycheck arrived. Then there was another man who made half as much, but he had savings, investments, and the ability to make choices. Why? Because he prioritized his future over his present desires. He knew that wealth wasn't about how much you made, but how much you kept and multiplied. It all comes down to priorities. Some people put pleasure first and finances second. Others put finances first and let the pleasure follow. The difference is in the results. The ones who prioritize their financial well-being don't live in constant stress about bills, unexpected expenses, or retirement. They sleep peacefully knowing they have a plan. The first step to putting first things first is having a budget. Now, budgeting isn't about restriction, it's about control. A budget tells your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. It ensures that before you spend on entertainment or luxuries, you've handled the important things: savings, investments, and essentials. It's the blueprint that makes financial success predictable. I knew a couple who struggled with money. Every month they earned well, but by the end of it, they had nothing left. I asked them, "Do you have a budget?" They said, "No, we just try to spend carefully." That's not a plan. That's wishful thinking. So they started budgeting. They tracked every dollar, allocated money for savings first, and spent what was left. A year later, they had an emergency fund, an investment account, and more financial peace than they ever had before. Saving is another key habit. Most people save what's left after spending, which means they rarely save anything. Highly effective people do the opposite. They save first. They take a portion of every dollar they earn and put it away before they do anything else. They treat savings like a non-negotiable expense. I remember hearing about a man who always saved 10% of his income, no matter what. He started with a small salary, but his habit never changed. Years later, while others worried about their future, he was financially free. Not because he made millions overnight, but because he prioritized saving when others didn't. But saving alone isn't enough. You have to make your money work for you. That's where investing comes in. Money sitting in a bank loses value over time, but money invested grows. The wealthy understand this. They don't just work for money, they make money work for them. I once met a young man who had a choice: spend his extra money on entertainment or start investing. He chose to invest. He didn't start with much, but he was consistent. While his friends spent their money on temporary pleasures, he was building a future. 10 years later, he had more financial options than he ever imagined. Not because he was lucky, but because he put first things first. The truth is, every financial decision either moves you closer to wealth or further from it. Every dollar you spend without purpose is a dollar that could have been invested in your future. The key is understanding what matters most. Is it the short-term thrill of spending or the long-term security of financial independence? Success is not a solo journey. Too many people try to figure everything out on their own, believing that asking for help is a sign of weakness. But the truth is, wealth is built through collaboration, through learning from others, through creating opportunities that benefit not just yourself, but those around you. The mindset of highly effective people is never, how can I win while others lose? Instead, they think in terms of, how can we all win together? Because when you help others succeed, success has a way of coming back to you. I once met a man who wanted to start a business but refused to take advice. He thought he knew everything, so he made mistakes that could have been avoided. He struggled for years, barely staying afloat. Then I met another man who had the same dream, but he sought out mentors. He learned from those who had already succeeded. Instead of competing blindly, he collaborated, built partnerships, and gained insights that put him ahead. One man fought alone and lost time, while the other embraced the power of learning and won big. That's the difference. Highly effective people know the value of networking. They surround themselves with people who are smarter, more experienced, and more successful than they are. They seek advice, they build relationships, and they understand that success is not just about what you know, it's about who you know. A great example of this is two men who started in real estate at the same time. One tried to do everything himself. He researched, he took risks, he made mistakes. The other found a mentor, someone who had been in the game for years. That mentor helped him avoid common pitfalls, introduced him to the right people, and gave him insights that only experience could teach. In just a few years, the second man was miles ahead, not because he was smarter, but because he was willing to learn from someone who had already walked the path. That's the power of mentorship. Some people struggle for years trying to figure things out when they could simply learn from someone who has already succeeded. The key is being humble enough to ask for help and wise enough to apply what you learn. Collaboration also opens doors to financial opportunities that would never be possible alone. I remember hearing about two men who wanted to invest in a property. Neither had enough money on their own, so they partnered up. They combined their resources, split the work, and made a deal that neither could have done individually. Years later, that single collaboration led to multiple investments, and both of them built wealth faster than they ever could alone. But it's not just about business partnerships. Collaboration can be as simple as sharing ideas, pooling resources, or even just having the right conversations. Many people keep their financial struggles or aspirations to themselves, but those who win are willing to talk, to learn, to listen. I once had a friend who wanted to grow his money but didn't know where to start. He could have stayed stuck, but instead, he started surrounding himself with financially successful people. He attended seminars, joined business groups, and sought out those who knew more than he did. Just by being in the right environment, his thinking changed. He learned strategies he had never considered, and within a few years, he had investments, a thriving business, and financial stability. That's why highly effective people don't compete blindly, they collaborate wisely. They don't see others as threats, they see them as resources. Instead of being envious of success, they study it, learn from it, and find ways to create success for themselves and others. Most people go through life wondering why they're struggling financially, but very few ever take the time to truly analyze where they stand. It's like trying to drive across the country without a map. You wouldn't do that, would you? And yet that's exactly how many people handle their finances. They don't know how much they earn versus how much they spend. They don't know how much debt they have or where their money is really going. They just hope that somehow things will get better. But hope is not a strategy. The first step to building wealth is knowing where you are right now. If you don't take an honest look at your financial situation, how can you possibly make the right decisions? Imagine a business owner who never looks at his financial reports. He doesn't know if he's making a profit or losing money. He doesn't track his expenses. Eventually, his business collapses and he wonders why. The same principle applies to personal finance. If you don't track your income, expenses, and debt, you're operating in the dark. And the danger of operating in the dark is that you might be heading straight for a cliff without realizing it. I once knew a man who told me he couldn't save money. He said there's just nothing left at the end of the month. So, I asked him a simple question. Do you know exactly where your money is going? He admitted he didn't. We sat down and went through his expenses, and he was shocked. Hundreds of dollars were disappearing every month on things he never paid attention to. Subscriptions he didn't use, dining out, impulsive purchases. The moment he saw the numbers in front of him, he realized he had control all along. He just never looked. That's the power of awareness. When you know exactly where you stand financially, you can make decisions based on facts, not guesses. If your expenses are higher than your income, you have two choices. Cut unnecessary spending or increase your earnings. If you're drowning in debt, you can create a plan to pay it off, but you can't fix what you don't acknowledge. One of the smartest habits of highly effective people is that they track their finances like a business. They don't just guess. They write down their income, list their expenses, and review their financial position regularly. They know how much they owe, how much they save, and where every dollar is going. That level of awareness is what separates those who build wealth from those who remain stuck. I remember a young couple who came to me for advice. They were earning decent money, but felt like they were always struggling. They wanted to invest, but they didn't think they had enough. I asked them to track every dollar they spent for a month. At the end of that month, they found out they were spending more on entertainment, takeout, and small unnecessary purchases than they were saving. Once they saw the numbers clearly, they made adjustments. Within a year, they had saved enough to make their first investment. Their financial situation didn't change overnight, but their awareness did. And that changed everything. That's why understanding your financial position is the foundation of wealth building. It puts you in control. When you know your numbers, you can make smarter choices. You can decide where to cut back, where to invest, and how to grow your income. You stop reacting to money and start directing it. Some people avoid looking at their finances because they're afraid of what they'll find. But ignoring the problem doesn't make it go away. Facing reality, even if it's uncomfortable, is the first step to improvement. If you want to build wealth, don't guess. Don't hope. Know exactly where you stand, and you'll have the power to move forward with confidence. Most people go through life working hard for money, but the truly wealthy understand that money should also work for them. It's not just about earning, it's about leveraging what you earn to create more. When you learn how to use your financial resources wisely, you set yourself up for long-term success. The key is to make money in different ways, invest in different areas, and use every financial tool available to multiply your wealth. I once knew a man who had a great job, a six-figure salary, and a comfortable lifestyle. But every penny he earned was tied to his job. He had no investments, no secondary income, and no financial backup plan. When his company downsized, he was left with nothing but a severance check and a mortgage he couldn't afford. Compare that to another man I knew who made less but understood the power of financial leverage. He had income from multiple sources: his job, rental properties, a side business, and a few investments. When tough times came, he didn't panic because his money wasn't dependent on just one source. That's the difference between working for money and making money work for you. One of the smartest ways to build wealth is to diversify. Never rely on just one source of income. If you have a job, start thinking about how to generate income outside of it. Maybe it's a small business, an investment portfolio, or real estate. When you have multiple streams of income, you create security. If one source slows down, you have others to keep you going. Wealthy people never put all their eggs in one basket. They spread their financial resources across different opportunities so that one loss doesn't destroy them. Investing is another critical part of leveraging your financial resources. Some people save money in a bank account and feel safe, but money sitting in a bank isn't growing. It's losing value to inflation. That's why the wealthy put their money to work. They invest in assets that appreciate over time: stocks, real estate, businesses. I knew a man who started with just a little savings, but instead of letting it sit, he studied the stock market, made small investments, and reinvested his gains. Over time, his small investments turned into a significant portfolio. He wasn't the smartest man in the world, but he understood one thing: if you don't make your money work for you, you'll always have to work for money. Now, leveraging financial resources isn't just about investing. It's also about using financial tools wisely. Credit, for example, can be a powerful tool if used correctly. Some people fear debt, but not all debt is bad. There's a difference between using credit to buy liabilities, things that cost you money, and using credit to buy assets, things that make you money. I once met a man who used borrowed money to start a rental property business. He didn't buy a fancy car or expensive clothes. He used his credit to acquire income-generating assets. Within a few years, his properties were paying him more than his job ever did. That's the power of financial leverage. Many people miss opportunities because they don't know how to maximize what they have. Sometimes it's not about having more money, but about using the money you already have in smarter ways. If you're earning money, ask yourself, am I just spending it or am I multiplying it? Every dollar you earn can either be consumed or invested. Those who build wealth choose to invest. Another strategy is to reinvest your earnings. Too many people take their first profits and spend them on lifestyle upgrades. Bigger homes, nicer cars, expensive vacations. The wealthy take those profits and put them back to work. A small business owner who reinvests in his business sees it grow. An investor who reinvests dividends sees his portfolio expand. Every financial decision should be made with the goal of multiplying your resources, not just maintaining them. I once had a conversation with a young man who wanted to be financially free but thought he needed a massive income to get there. I asked him, "Are you using what you already have wisely?" He realized that he wasn't. He was spending everything he made, not thinking about investments and not building multiple income streams. Once he changed that mindset, his financial situation transformed. Wealth is not just about making money, it's about what you do with the money you make. If you leverage your financial resources wisely, you create a foundation for lasting wealth. The key is to make every dollar work for you. When you do that, financial freedom isn't a dream, it's inevitable. Most people want to build wealth, but very few are willing to do what it takes to stay ahead. The truth is, if you want to be financially successful, you can't rely on what you learned years ago. The world changes, markets shift, and opportunities evolve. The question is, are you growing with it? Are you sharpening your financial knowledge, or are you using outdated tools in a world that demands new strategies? I once knew a man who started a small business and found early success. He made a comfortable income, and for a while, everything was going well. But he stopped learning. He never read another book, never studied the changing market, never upgraded his skills. When the competition evolved, he was left behind. His once thriving business started to decline because he failed to grow with the times. Contrast that with another man I knew who treated education as a lifelong commitment. He was always learning, reading financial books, attending seminars, listening to experts. When markets shifted, he adapted. When new opportunities arose, he was ready. He built a fortune because he understood that wealth is not just about making money, it's about knowing how to keep it and grow it. If you want to build wealth, you must constantly improve your financial knowledge. It doesn't matter where you start. What matters is that you commit to learning. Read books on wealth creation. Study the habits of successful people and understand how money works. Some people say, I don't have time to read. But let me ask you, do you have time to be broke? Do you have time to struggle financially? Because if you're not educating yourself, you're choosing financial struggle by default. I once met a young man who was drowning in debt, living paycheck to paycheck. He told me, I just don't know how to manage money. I handed him a book on personal finance and said, start here. A few months later, he came back with a different mindset. He had started budgeting, saving, and even investing. His situation didn't change overnight, but his thinking did. And once your thinking changes, your results follow. Learning isn't just about books. Surround yourself with people who are ahead of you financially. If you spend time with people who are struggling, you'll adopt their habits. But if you associate with those who are building wealth, you'll learn from their experiences. I've seen it happen. A man struggling financially once asked a successful investor how he built his fortune. The investor gave him a simple answer: I study money every day. That man took the advice seriously. He started learning about investing, understanding market trends, and applying what he learned. Years later, he became financially independent. One conversation changed his life because he was willing to learn. Some people say, I don't know where to start. The answer is simple. Start anywhere. Read books by financial experts, listen to podcasts, watch educational videos, attend seminars. Make learning a daily habit. The more you learn, the better financial decisions you'll make. If you invest in your education, you invest in your future. Markets change, economies fluctuate, new opportunities arise. If you're not learning, you're falling behind, but those who commit to lifelong learning always stay ahead. Wealth isn't built by luck, it's built by knowledge. And the more you sharpen your financial skills, the sharper your results will be. Wealth isn't built in a day, and it isn't built by accident. It's built by habits. Consistent, disciplined habits that shape your financial future. Think back to the 7 habits we've discussed. Being proactive, taking control of your financial destiny, beginning with the end in mind, having a clear vision for your future, putting first things first, prioritizing your financial well-being, thinking win-win, surrounding yourself with the right people, analyzing your financial situation, knowing where you stand, leveraging your resources, making money work for you, and sharpening the saw, continuously learning and improving. Each habit on its own is powerful, but when applied together, they create an unstoppable force that leads to financial success. The key is consistency. It's not enough to learn these principles. You must live them. I've seen people get excited about change only to fall back into old habits because they lacked discipline. Don't let that be you. Discipline is the bridge between where you are now and where you want to be. If you want financial freedom, you must commit to the habits that create it. Start today. Choose one habit and apply it. Take control of your money, set clear financial goals, invest in your knowledge, and surround yourself with the right influences. Small, daily actions compound over time, and before you know it, you'll be in a completely different financial position. The future is yours to create, but only if you take the steps necessary to build it. Wealth isn't just for the lucky or the talented. It's for those who decide to develop the right habits,